After another failed trade proposal, Chris Paul remains headquartered in the Big Easy. And the task of dealing CP3 has proven bigger than anyone could imagine and far from easy. For the second time in 5 days, a deal to send Paul to Los Angeles bit the dust. Last time, it was the NBA acting as the owners of the Hornets, killing a three-team deal to send Paul to the Lakers. This time, it was the Clippers pulling the plug on a proposal that would send Paul there. Monday afternoon, the Clippers backed away from negotiations to bring Paul to L.A. in a swap that looked something like this. It would have sent Eric Gordon, Chris Kaman, and his expiring contract, along with Al-Farouq El-Aminu and a first-round pick to New Orleans. But none of that is happening as of now. Anyway, David Aldridge has been riding the Chris Paul roller coaster with us and joins us now. And DA, let's start with the latest failed attempt to trade Paul. How close did the Clippers come to consummating a deal finally?
Well, Matt, I would say close, but not like imminent. I think they kept going back and forth on three issues mainly. They had agreed that Kaman would be in the deal. They had agreed that Aminu would be in the deal. What it came down to was Eric Bledsoe, the second-year point guard, their very good young star guard, Eric Gordon, and their first-round pick that they had got from the Timberwolves, which is unprotected for next year. Those are the three assets, really, that they wanted to hold on to more than anything. They kept telling New Orleans that Gordon was not going to be in the deal, that they'd be willing to talk about the first, but they didn't want to talk about Gordon. Then, the league said, well, what about Bledsoe? And then what about Bledsoe and Gordon? So it broke down over which group of those three assets they were willing to sacrifice. And basically, I think what it came down to is they said, look, if you want the pick, you can have the pick. If you want Gordon, we can talk about it, but you can't have both. And so right now they've agreed to shelve the talks. Although in the last hour, I hear these rumblings again that maybe the talks aren't quite dead yet. And the problem is this, guys. As you all know, trades talks happen every day of every year in the NBA. The difference is these are happening in public and in real time. And most people don't know that this is what happens when you have a trade discussion. You go back and forth over several days, maybe several weeks before you get a trade done. If you get it done at all, and a lot of times you don't. So it's not that this is anything new or unprecedented other than the league owning the team. What is unprecedented is that everybody knows about it and it's happening on Twitter. That's what's different, and that has not happened before.
So, DA, if not the Clippers, how many teams are left out there willing to take a shot at satisfying the NBA with a proposal at the risk of alienating the players they're trying to trade?
Well, look, I still think at the end of the day, Boston would love to get involved in the discussions for Chris Paul. I'm sure the Portland would certainly love to get involved. I don't know that they will get involved or are involved. But and Golden State would still love to get involved in the discussions on Chris Paul. But the realistic list of suitors are the two LA teams right now, the Lakers and the Clippers, because they have enough assets that they could put in a deal that would make sense for the Hornets to take. Now, obviously, the league has made it clear what it prefers the Hornets to get, which is young assets, young players, and draft picks who are not coincidentally less expensive, and therefore the team payroll is less, and it becomes easier to sell that team. Remember, the NBA owns the New Orleans Hornets at the moment, and that is the driving force behind a lot of this, to make this team going forward not only attractive to a buyer, but also potentially profitable to a buyer. So if you want to get the highest amount of money for this team, you have to make this team as attractive as possible.
And I'm sure the league is well aware that the idea of Chris Paul leaving in the summertime is not very attractive to a buyer either, especially if they don't get anything in return. Fellas,
that's why they're asking for so much. Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's put it to you guys as former players. If you're Chris Paul, what's going through your mind at this point?
It's a lot. I mean, you're in, you're out. You don't have David West, who has just signed with the Pacers. You look at your rosters, there's only 5 guys returning with a contract. I think for him right now, obviously he wants to get to the Lakers, and I'm not sure if he wanted to go to Clippers or not. He wants to get New York. It might be in his best interest just to wait this season out, just to get a chance to pick your own team, see who's under the cap, see where you fit the best. But I think the casualties in this whole process is Dale Demps, as the general manager, and Monty Williams, because both those guys, they've done an excellent job last year. This year, Dale Demps this summer to get that deal from the Lakers with the three-way trade with Houston, I thought it was a very even, good trade for the New Orleans Hornets. I thought this one was pretty good, but I think right now you look at Dale Demps, you handcuffed him, as far as who he can negotiate with and who will really believe that he can pull a deal off. He has to go ask the owners and David Stern.
3D Paul has considerable leverage, obviously, because he can tell a prospective team, hey, I will sign with you long-term, or no, I will not sign with you long-term, and that very much influences the deal. In your opinion, does he now expand the options potentially because the NBA is making this a difficult deal to pull off?
A little bit, but I think to Smitty's point, at the end of the day, you're controlling your own destiny. You kind of watch out what you ask for because you kind of asked for the situation. You could have signed the extension and stayed there and asked Dale Demps, I'm going to stay, let's build this thing for the future. So you understand him holding out. Then secondly, with the league, you understand they've sold 10,000 season tickets. So they have to put the best product back out on the floor because you don't want to put a so-so product on the floor. Now you have a hard time trying to sell the team to a real buyer. So you understand both sides here in their situation.
Either of the proposed deals so far, as we know them, would have put a representative team out on the floor, certainly for New Orleans. Obviously not what the league was looking for in terms of a return on Chris Paul.